Lot here in Aberdeen, from unwanted world records to a very lucky Joe Perry beating you 5-0, obviously, Ken.
I think I was lucky to get nil.
Yeah. And obviously, from your perspective, Steve, you could have beaten, potentially, the winner of this. Jamie Cope's in a bit of trouble, but you beat Jamie in the group stage earlier on. Strange times.
Yes, that's right. I think that, you know, if it's going to stay as an event like this, then that'll happen more often. You couldn't possibly wish to win all of your matches in the group phase. I think highlights for me. John Higgins and Ronnie O'Sullivan's standard early on. I thought they were going to go all the way, but it ended up the standard of Jamie Cope and Neil Robertson astonished players and entertained loads of snooker fans at home.
Yes, it certainly has. And one of the real talking points here has been the group stage. It's a new format early on here. We had 48 players and 8 groups of 6 players, and they all played one another over the first few days in best of 5s. They were short, frantic affairs. Some players liked them, others absolutely detested them, and it sparked a huge debate early on.
Well, there have definitely been a few positive aspects to the new format.
I believe the negatives outweigh the positives. The round robin was far too complex and confusing, and many of the players didn't know whether they were coming or whether they were going.
We've had a lot of arguments in the media centre which would certainly strengthen the claims that it is a rather confusing format. Some of us thought so-and-so was through, some of us thought other people were through, and Mark King booked his flight home from Aberdeen, for heaven's sake.
We didn't know where we was coming or going. There was 4 of us, or 3 or 4 of us in the group that could get through at that time. If Jamie would have won 3-0 and he got us beaten, you know what I mean? You haven't got a clue where you're going. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's loads of excitement.
All right, it might have been a bit confusing, but you can't deny that it was exciting right up to the finish of the group stages. Players were in with a chance of qualifying right up to the last minute. It's just like the qualifying groups of the Football World Cup, and no one complains that that doesn't work.
If you lose a match, you've still got a chance to come back, but it's going to be short and sweet, but obviously it should be good for the viewers back home to actually watch it and see who's doing well and whatever groups they're involved in.
It's basically a toss of a coin, in it, I would say. Obviously the best player isn't going to win all the time, no way. But it's different, you know, it's more exciting probably.
A lot of the younger players, I think it suited them a bit more. Attacking, it's more of a race. So yeah, I found it quite interesting, yeah.
First to 5 in the early runs, it's just passion. You've got to get in there, haven't you? You know, you kind of. Well, there hasn't been a lot of safety this week. The young ones didn't seem to play safe anymore. No, that game's finished.
For me, it was also unfair. Isaris Kachawan, well, he won 4 of his group matches and didn't qualify, while others won just 3 and went through. They also had to rely on the performance of players who had already been knocked out. And with the ranking points at stake, that's just not fair.
Not every match was equal in terms of everyone's motivation. Normally, in a straight knockout, both players desperate to win. Whoever wins goes through, whoever loses goes home. That wasn't the case here, and I think that is a major flaw, particularly for a ranking event.
It's given us a chance to see 48 players in action, including some of the exciting new youngsters on the snooker scene. Without the larger field, would we have been able to see the likes of Judd Trump, Jamie Jones, and of course Jamie Cope?
I think that's valid. I think the standards in the game are so high that it is difficult for the likes of Trump and a lot of the young players to actually get through, and not just get through, but then obviously get on the televised tables. The fact that they have 5 matches here guaranteed means you're likely to see them at least once, so that is a positive thing, certainly.
The 5 frames were just too short. It takes longer to identify the better player. Now, if you prefer fast food to gourmet cooking, this might have satisfied your palate. For me, frankly, it just gave me indigestion.
If it's a longer match, maybe you get a chance to get in your rhythm. It's best of 5. You're sort of you're a little bit more edgy because you know if you miss chances, you think you could lose the match quickly.
There's nothing more dramatic than a final frame decider, and the 5-frame format gave us plenty of those. 2-0 down, needed a snooker, he came back to win. Who says the players should have time to ease into a match? The 1 to 3 format encourages players to get out of the blocks quickly, play aggressively, and score heavily.
If you don't miss and you play decent safety, then you know you should win. So it doesn't matter what format you put up. I just think it's a little bit. People get used to best of nines, but in any game you want to get out of the blocks early.
In summary, I think the format was confusing, unfair, and the matches were just too short.
In summary, the new format is good for young players. It's exciting when the groups are decided, and it encourages attacking snooker.
Obviously we've got to sit down and talk about it and discuss it with the broadcasters, the sponsors and people like that, but I think it's been a success.
Yes, I think it's been a success too. Persuasive arguments from both Dennis and John. Overall, how would you sum it up, Ken? What's your view on it?
I think John Berger was right. It was exciting. The good thing about it was that it saw a lot of the younger players, gave them a chance, gave them some great experience. The likes of Judd Trump and Jamie Jones, and of course Jamie Cope as well. The fact that they had so many matches under their belt, but for the older players and the more experienced players, playing best of five is very, very difficult. I think it sort of came down that there were at times in the group stage where a guy had won more matches than another player in another group, and it just wasn't fair. But you know, there's twos and fro. Only time will tell, and the public will probably tell, and how they sort of viewed it.
The interesting point, if it does not encourage safety, as some of our paying punters were saying, and it encourages people to actually go for everything, how is that going to fare with them when they get to the longer frame matches at the UK Championships and the Crucible?
Well, I think they just adapt. But I think it does encourage more attack in snooker. And that can't be a bad thing at all. I think, you know, the public want to see, they like to see a little bit of safety, but they like to see the attack in snooker. And in the early stages, that's what we saw a lot of, which is only good for the game as well.
Yeah, we saw it in the early stages, and again, we're seeing it here in the final tonight. Well, there's some very nervous people up in the Players' Lounge, and Steve's managed to find them out. What are they up to, Steve?
Well, I'm here with Danielle, Jamie Cope's fiancée. You nervous?
Very nervous, extremely.
You said you've been up since 5 o'clock this morning.
I have, I'm shattered.
How do you think he's been playing this week in general? Have you seen him play in other events? He seems to be playing top form.
He's playing extremely well. He's playing so well. It's amazing.
Anything different? You know, did you sense it was going to be different coming to this event?
Not really, no. I mean, he always throws surprises in there, isn't he? I mean, but I think he's just shattered from the whole week, to be honest. So he's struggling a bit tonight.
Well, he's been playing very well, but he does seem to have sort of run a bit out of steam. But earlier in the week he was superb, and that made that 1-4-7 break. Were you up here for that?
Over the moon. It was brilliant. Such an achievement for him.
Did he phone you up and tell you?
Oh, yes.
Did he tell you how much money he'd won?
Oh, yes. Yes, that was a nice little surprise.
OK, well, I hope it goes well for the rest of it. Obviously, it's a tough way back, but do you think he can do it?
Of course he can. He's definitely going to do it.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, Danielle has faith in her man. Jamie Cope has got a lot of work to do, though, because Neil Robertson, the likeable Australian, needs one more to take this Grand Prix title, and a cheque for £60,000. The two men coming back out now for the conclusion of this final. And we have a change of personnel in the commentary hot seats now. So it's over to Willie Thorne and John Berger.
Thank you, Hazel. How long will we be here, Willie?
Well, hopefully a little bit longer. And talking about the format, it was nice to hear what you were saying. But both these players on show this evening both lost in the round-robin matches, and they're in the final. So isn't that good?
Yeah, well, I did mention about the World Cup at football. I'm certain there's teams that haven't won every match in their round-robin group and gone on to win the World Cup.
Jamie Cope.